You, I think you muted yourself.
He may have muted himself if he was still walking around with all the background noise and stuff.
That's what I did.
Oh, okay.
All right, are we ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. So for this week, the prompt for this week, please discuss with your group members situations in which you have employed the various sources of power and influence referenced by Hackman and Johnson. Work to tie those experiences to your role as a leader or as a follower. Finally, discuss ways in which cultural differences may influence the way we interact with leadership, or I'm sorry, the way we interact with leaders and employer power. So that's our topic for the day.
Okay. I personally, I don't really have a leadership role in my job right now. But I'm the only one that does. I run the social media and the marketing for a nonprofit. So I have to rely, since I don't have any actual authority, I have to rely on expert leadership to kind of, because I'm the only one who doesn't have the knowledge of it and run all the social media aspects. That's the type of power I have to use. I don't have any actual authority.
Yeah, I think for me, the first thing I thought about was my time in the military, because with the obvious rank structure and clear delineations, there's some like obvious legitimate power that comes along with it. But I found in my experience in the military, if you rely just solely on that legitimate power that you get to try and lead your soldiers underneath you, then you won't be nearly as effective. You have to establish some other kind of power authority, whether it's expert or referent, where they have to know that you're actually looking out for their best. You don't just have a position, but you're actually vested in their interests as well.
I noticed a lot of, at least in my experience when I was in, there's a lot of reward power, and the rewards were always very unmotivating. It's like, all right.
There's a lot of poor uses of reward power in the military.
We'll let you go home if you finish this.
Yeah, the comp time was a huge one.
Yeah.
We use
compensation time. So, hey, you're going to pull overtime on this, or hey, you were deployed for X time. So when you get back, you'll get 3 or 4 days off.
Individual results may vary.
We try to use a lot of recognition at my place of employment. I have 5 direct reports, and so one of the things that we try to do, time is a big thing. So, I mean, we try to be creative in what we do with recognition or rewards. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to equate to a monetary gift or something, but we'll give somebody a pass to do like Jeans Day or something, or wear scrubs, because I work in a medical office, and so most of our administrative staff has to wear business casual clothing, but we all like to, we're hanging out with doctors and MAs and everything all day, so we'll reward people with stuff like that, or lunch or anything, or even just a simple recognition saying, hey, thank you, you did a great job, and building that person up.
I find that in my field, we use more information power. Usually the paramedics, since they have the highest level of medical training, they'll usually have all the authority for the most part. And then I guess on a medical call, I would come second in command, since I'm the EMT on the ambulance. Like, I guess I kind of help run things.
I would imagine in that field too that you guys are kind of exerting a source of kind of an expert power over just the the scene in general, not necessarily just the other medical professionals, but just anybody who happens to be there when you guys get on scene and everybody's like, they're here, they know what's going on, they're in charge.
Yeah,
That's what you
kind of
hope.
how that is, especially since fire here in the city, we have firefighter EMTs, not firefighter medics like most of the rest of the state. And as soon as you get on scene, fire just kind of like, oh, they're here, you can take it, sort of thing. And they kind of stand back, and they'll do stuff if you like ask them to, but for the most part, you find that as soon as you walk in the door, it's all of a sudden you're the one in charge. So.
With emergency services, I think that have pretty strict power too. Authority would be well defined.
Yeah, it's that legitimate uniformed authority power where you show up and you automatically have that based on what you're wearing and your rank and role. So, and that was a struggle for me because whenever I switched to the civilian side, I went from, being a leader in the Coast Guard with well-defined roles, and now I show up as a consultant, and it's a lot more soft power because I'm usually to a certain extent brought in and put at odds with their communication PR teams, and so I have to use informational referential power and a lot of personal stuff to make sure that I'm not viewed as an adversary because I've been brought in to help and augment what's going on with their team.
That's an interesting perspective because even though you're there to help people, no one likes being told from the outside what to do.
Yeah.
Like, my girlfriend's a school psychologist, and no one likes being told how to raise their kids. That's a sore spot for pretty universal. So that's tough, even though she's trying to help and has, and is an expert. Everybody's an expert raising their own kid. And that's usually, that's important. Everybody should be able to raise their kids.
Yeah, and I thought what it kind of relates to power, but I thought something I read in the book was kind of how different cultures will approach how they address things and the method or manners that they take. I know they had the comparison of the two signs in the book about like the American version was like stay off the grass, and then I think there was it was like a Chinese version of the same sign was essentially somebody has been working very hard to maintain this grass. I kind of chuckled because when I read the Chinese sign, had I not read the American version that was get off the grass, I would have never put together that sign was supposed to be telling me to, in fact, stay off the grass. Because I come from a much more, direct background where it's just, you just kind of say it flat out how it is,
Mm-hmm. And
so I think that those cultural differences are interesting.
Yeah, I believe Eastern Asian culture, status is huge there, and authority is too. The U.S. is kind of more individualistic, what's the word? Egalitarian, maybe.
Yeah.
We kind of view ourselves as equal to everybody else, and all men are created equal. It's right in the Declaration of Independence, but in other cultures, that rank structure that you'd see, for us, it's an extreme example in the military, but other cultures, that's just how it is.
Yeah, but even in the military, in the U.S. military, they pride individualism, individual achievement, going above and beyond and doing stuff to a certain extent. Yeah, you're constrained in that rank structure, but like when you compare like Southeast Asia and the deference they give to their leaders and what they'll do to make sure there's not any disruptions or discord is crazy for an American.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I do think the military, even though it is, you do see bad leaders, but a lot of leaders want to highlight and want their followers to develop and grow because they become leaders themselves.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's an interesting that comparison to the book just kind of illustrated how mindful you kind of need to be depending on the team you're working on and who constitutes your team, kind of in the ways that you address different people, that it's not a one size fits all. kind of deal. You have to really kind of look at the individuals.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if a leader that comes from a different culture working in the U.S., if it would be difficult for them to struggle motivating their followers. I could see that being a big challenge, and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think, was it last week when we were reading about, and I'm in a couple different classes, so if I'm overlapping in one, I'm sorry. I think it was last week we were about different cultures and how it was the paternalistic leaders. Is that last week for us?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one of the guys that I work for, he's from South Africa, and he's a very paternalistic leader. And being that I'm from America, or that's obviously, so I'm used to the very individualistic and people not really, there's just more of a boundary that I'm used to. And so when I first started working with him, and he's an older guy, he was super interested in my marriage and my children, and how my relation, not in a creepy way, but like what my relationship with my husband was like, and if I just all these different things that to me seemed really odd and really intrusive. But as I've worked with him more, I've realized that his leadership style is very much based on his culture, and in his culture, that's a natural thing. He's just trying to be involved, and so, and now it's been a couple of years, and I really value his leadership. And it's just, but I mean, even still, like if I were to go to a different situation, I'd have to re-establish all of that. Like if I were to work for another paternalistic type leader, it would still be weird because I'm still used to that power distance, more or less. I mean, yes, we're egalitarian, but there is still a power distance, even if it's unspoken, between leaders and their team members, I think.
Yeah, and I think culturally too, like I guess apparently South Africa is like that. I don't know much of that culture, but in a lot of places in South America, their main socialization is at work. So you go to work and that's when you socialize. America, we're kind of more task oriented. So even just adjusting to that overall would be difficult.
Well, there was a class I was in once too where they point about, I think in Eastern cultures, they're big on small talk at the beginning of meetings. So if you go into a meeting and you just get straight to business, they would be highly offended. Whereas we're just like, no, we just have stuff to do. Let's get it done. And so being mindful of different cultures and how they approach things is pretty big too.
Yeah. I think, kind of tying it back with the cultural differences and in terms of power, I think that generally speaking, I don't think it's the best strategy to kind of rely on one source of power, right? Like I think that if you can kind of establish yourself, if you're the leader and you can establish yourself as having power coming from a few different sources, I think you become that much more, I guess, believable or valuable to your followers, that they're more willing to buy into the power that you have. Maybe it's legitimately power from the position itself, but then if you can back that up with some other source, I think that makes it a better relationship for both sides.
Yeah, I think every discussion we've had, we come back to adjusting and
right.
And I think that comes back to a point we made each week where it's all on some kind of continuum. There's not a definitive way or one size fits all kind of thing, because each person, each situation, each company, each department, whatever you have, is going to be a little different.
Yep. Is there anything else we think we need to cover? Or?
I think we pretty well covered it.
Okay. Yeah, I think so too. Okay.
All right, guys.
Good meeting.
All right. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.
You guys see
Guys.
Talk to you guys next week.